What's up, everybody? Tricks Ridiculous back with another video, and boy, do we have some news. So, if you are not aware, which you probably are, Embracer Group has come to an agreement to acquire Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, and Square Enix Montreal as part of a $300 million purchase. Square Enix basically selling their kind of Western division studios for $300 million, and basically going to take the money and invest it in NFTs. No comment on the move, but what does this mean for, of course, Marvel's Avengers? Well, obviously this has been the big news in the community as of late, and of course people, emotions are running high. People are jumping through all sorts of conclusions. I refrained from putting a video out as soon as this information dropped because I wanted it to settle a little bit, and then actually give a level-headed thought on it. So really what it is, without going through all of the legal jargon, the concern with Marvel's Avengers, unlike the IPs such as Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, Thief, Legacy of Kain, etc., those are all original IPs. The difference with the Marvel IPs, which includes, of course, Marvel's Avengers, and then the Guardians of the Galaxy game, which is by Eidos Montreal. The difference with those two games is there is a Marvel license that Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal hold respectively that allows them to publish a Marvel game, and that license is granted to them by Marvel Games and, of course, Disney. Now, that license needs to be agreed to be transferred as part of the deal because it is not an original property of Crystal Dynamics or of Eidos Montreal as the rest of these games are. So basically they have to agree to transfer over the license, which will probably involve some money. And basically, without getting too much into it, if they don't transfer the license, or Embracer doesn't feel like they should pay for the license, then there is a possibility that they discontinue production on Marvel's Avengers and then do not do a Guardians sequel because they will not have the rights. Now, here's the thing, okay? They have come out with a press release, Embracer has, and you may have seen it, and I'm not going to play it on this video, but they've basically said that they understand that there are some external agreements, as they call it, that need to be made for this deal to go through, etc., etc. Now, my take on that, this is all just lip service, right? I mean, they're not going to say anything right now. The deal just happened. They're not going to say anything that's going to jeopardize the deal. They're not going to say this is definitely going away, this is definitely coming, etc., etc., right? They're keeping a very neutral corporate tone with this whole thing, okay? And that's obvious, right? So anything that you see or hear from Embracer in the next, week or so, I would say, I would not read too far into it. But basically, what they're going to do is they're going to kind of assess the assets. They're going to see what IPs they feel will make money to continue investing in and which IPs will not. And as part of that, they will, of course, be looking at Marvel's Avengers, looking at how much money it has made, how much money it costs to develop, including including the cost of the license, and then kind of going from there. Now, I have no concern that Marvel will be okay transferring the license over, right? I don't have any concern with that. What it is now this is a new group looking at the numbers and figuring out what's going to be profitable and what's not, all right? So really what that means is the Marvel license, it has a low standard, right? They're willing to sell the license to anybody who's willing to pay. Marvel is, and Disney is, right? So that's all fine and good. The question is, will Embracer look at Marvel's Avengers, look at the income that's coming in? Because remember, this isn't like box sales anymore. They're not doing a Marvel's Avengers 2, or at least that wasn't the original plan. Right now, the income is coming from skins and microtransactions, right? So looking at the money that's coming in from Marvel's Avengers right now, looking at the development costs, looking at the Marvel license, and saying, is this worth it? Okay. That's what we don't know what they're going to land on. All right. So basically, all I'm trying to say with this video is I'm staying pretty neutral. I'm not really giving an opinion one way or the other. I think that this is really a testing point for Avengers. I do believe that Square Enix has bogled this game. Crystal Dynamics has bogled the game. The whole thing has been botched from the beginning, and hopefully Embracer can kind of come in and, I don't want to say crack the whip, but at least like recognize if they can see the potential in the game, recognize and give the proper resources to turn it into a success, because I still believe the game can be a success, and I have several videos on what I think they can do, the type of content that they can release and the things that they can focus on to really turn the game around, including potentially going free to play. But that's besides the point. My opinion doesn't matter. What matters is what Embracer thinks. Okay, so the point is, I'm seeing a lot of opinions on the internet going both ways. Here's the things that I would not listen to. All right, I would not listen to anything that Embracer says in any sort of press release or conference. It's all corporate talk right now. They're not going to say anything that's going to jeopardize the deal. Okay, so ignore all of that. I would not listen to any developers on the Crystal Dynamics side that say it's a good thing or a bad thing. They're not going to say it's a bad thing. They're not going to risk, put their necks out like that. And even if they say it's a good thing, they don't actually know. Right? They have no idea. They're not being given the information, right? This is an executive level thing. The developers that are actually working on the game are not actually in the loop on this sort of stuff. All right. So I wouldn't listen to those things. But here's the thing. I would not take a very polarizing side on either side of the argument. You've got people saying this is it, 100%. Definitely going to be the end of the game. Paul Tassi, who I have a lot of respect for Paul Tassi, he's saying it could be the end. He doesn't know. But, his argument is more just like it would be a clean break if this is it. Like this could be the end of it, whatever, and they could focus on other things. Those are fine opinions to have. But again, nothing is guaranteed just because Paul Tassi said it or because someone else said it. But on the other side of the coin, you've got people saying like this is absolutely the greatest thing that could happen. They're finally away from Square Enix. This is fantastic. And, they're saying, Embracer has already said that they're not getting rid of Avengers. Not necessarily true. I would not go to that extreme either. I would still be prepared for the fact that there's a non-zero chance that the game does get dropped. All right. It is not a 100% chance that Marvel's Avengers lives through this. All right. But it's also not a 100% chance that it doesn't. Right. And if it does, it could be very good for the game. Okay. But if it doesn't, it doesn't. So my point is that don't take either side to the extreme, but be prepared for either one. Right. Be prepared that it is a chance that this is the end of Marvel's Avengers once all the dust settles with this merger. But also be prepared, if you're expecting it to be the end, be prepared to be proven wrong. It's also a very real possibility. So it is what it is. We'll see what happens. I don't think anything is going to affect the day-to-day, at least for the upcoming months. The deal itself is not scheduled to actually be finalized until at least September. So I would not expect any type of decision before that. Okay. So honestly, I would expect things to be absolutely status quo at the studio from now until then. We're still going to kind of get, the drip of content that we know is coming, Jane Foster, and then who knows when the rest. But that's pretty much it. As far as my opinion on this, honestly, I think it's fine. I think it's a good thing. And like I said, it's really a test of Avengers, right? Because Avengers could just hobble along, right? It's almost like do you just let Avengers hobble along on life support, or do you give Avengers like a miracle drug that has a chance of killing it but a chance of giving it superpowers? That's basically how I see this. It's like the game has to take a risk at this point, right? It can't just keep hobbling along at the pace. I've said in past videos, it's just not a sustainable model for a live service game. It's just not going to work like this. So if the game dies, the game dies. But if it doesn't die, I think it has a real chance of becoming way better and getting way closer to its potential than it has under Square Enix. So that's my thoughts on it. Obviously, we'll all see how it pans out. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. As always, be sure to like and subscribe if you're new. Join the Discord for more discussion. Link in the description. That's it from me, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.